Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Icing on the Skate podcast. Episode 24. We're very close to the end of the season now. Joining me, of course, is the Gadders over there.
Hello!
There he is. So yeah, we're getting very close to the end of the season now. This is the penultimate weekend of the season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Where's your sound gone?
What do you mean, where's my sound gone?
Go. Sorry. You just went really quiet on that last bit you said.
Oh, right.
So yeah, for those of you who don't know what this podcast is like, maybe it's your first time here, you're a podcast virgin, or you have, or you just new to the channel or anything like that. This is the podcast where we talk about all things Elite Ice Hockey League, which is the British league, all things National Hockey League, which of course is the best league in the world, as I say in basically 95% of my videos, and we talk about a bit from everything in between as well. So if you're not interested in either of those leagues, this is probably the wrong place for you. But if you're interested to just sort of hear me talk a load of shit for about an hour and a half and Chris bring up a load of stats for an hour and a half, then this is the place for you. So yeah, hello everyone, hope everyone is having a lovely day. Yeah, so Elite League. I thought I'd mention we did something cool. I woke up this morning and I saw that I had 10,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. Just thought I'd mention that. I'll talk about that in a lot more detail towards the end of the podcast. I want to give a proper thank you to you guys. But we've got some stuff to talk about first. If my webcam is out of sync with my microphone, blame technology, not me. Anyway, so, standings. Mr. Gadsby, would you like to take us through the standings?
I can take you through the standings in the Elite Ice Hockey League. There is just the 1 week to go.
Ooh.
So, top of the table, the Cardiff Devils. Second, the Belfast Giants. Third, the Nottingham Panthers. Fourth, the Glasgow Clan. Fifth, the Guildford Flames. Sixth, the Five Flyers. Seventh, the Sheffield Steelers. Eighth, the Coventry Blaze. Ninth, the Manchester Storm. 10th, the Dundee Stars. And the 11th, the Milton Keynes Lightning. And we'll go into that in a lot more detail in a moment.
Yeah, so we're going to go through a few of the news pieces before we come back to the playoff picture. Because last week we were just, Chris and I were just talking about this before we came on stream. We kind of talked about it in a lot of detail at the beginning. Then we came back to it later and we just kind of said the exact same things. So yeah, we'll move on and we'll come back to the playoff picture and some of the intricacies in a little bit more detail later on. So I thought I'd mention the player stats because I've done that the last few weeks as the season has sort of wound down to an end. Ben Lake and Mike Hammond are both tied in points. However, the interesting thing is Mike Hammond has played 6 less games, and he has the exact same amount of points as Ben Lake, which is pretty cool. Did you want to say something, Chris?
No.
Oh, okay. So Ben Lake has 32 goals on the season and 41 assists. He also has 103 penalty minutes, so he's willing to drop the gloves. I like it. Mike Hammond has 18 goals and 55 assists. If we want to go specifically for goals, let's see if this wants to load... No. Yeah, there we go. So Darcy Murphy is leading the Elite League in goals. 35 goals for him. Alex Guptill second with 34. With assists, I would assume it's still Hammond. Yep, Hammond, sorry, has got a 5 assist lead on Charles Lingley, who is second. He has 69 points on the year. He's doing all right for himself. And then for goaltenders, it's probably Bescarawani. Second time. See, I'm getting better at it. I'll have it by the end of the season. You know, we've got one more weekend. Bescarawani, I got it.
Yeah, and then he'll get traded somewhere that's not in what we cover.
Absolutely. But you know what? I will have conquered my goal, and it will show you that if you put your mind to something, you can achieve anything. So he's still the best goaltender for the Belfast Giants. Ben Bones is second for the Cardiff Devils. And Chris Carozzi, or Carozzi, I don't know how you pronounce it, is third place for the Guildford Flames. So he's done quite well for the Flames as well. So, yeah, that's a look at the player stats. Just thought I'd do it. Now, we've got a few little Elite League news items that I thought would bring up. To be honest, this week is very scarce in the amount of stuff that's happened. Like the extracurricular off-ice stuff. Because most of the teams are just focusing on the playoffs. And this is the same with the NHL as well. We're getting to the point now where teams are being eliminated from the playoff race. Teams are clinching playoff berths. There aren't really many changes in players moving places because trading deadlines and transfer deadlines have all come and gone. So, yeah, anyway, the attendance figures for the Elite Ice Hockey League were announced yesterday. Yesterday at 8 AM on the Elite League. So the 18-19 season total attendance passes 1 million people. Now, for those of you who watch the NHL all the time, you'll be like, 1 million. We get that in like a week's worth of games. Especially if you're like one of the big arenas like the Bell Centre or the Scotiabank Arena or Madison Square Garden or anything like that. But for British hockey, this is quite a huge thing. This is the second year in a row that we've got at least 1 million spectators at Elite League games. Now, I can't quite remember if I've been to an Elite League game this season or not. I've been trying to think about this. I could have sworn I have, but then again at the same time, I can't remember doing so. It's been quite a while.
You haven't come up to Nottingham.
No, I didn't think so. And I haven't been to Sheffield this year either.
The last Nottingham game you came to was the Belfast quarter-final last year.
Yes, it was. Yeah, so it's almost a year round. I've been a busy bee. Compared to the stats, the Elite League, what I thought was really good, they released the stats, the attendance figures and everything for last year, and for this year as well, which is really cool. They've been updated as well, this year's figures, up until today, which is really cool. Now, it's important to keep in mind that last year, remember, the Elite League had 12 teams, compared to the 11 teams it has this year. Last year, of course, they had the Edinburgh Capitals, or as everybody likes to call them, an easy 2 points. But, you know, we'll move on from that. The Murrayfield Racers are doing a fine for themselves at the moment, by the looks of it. So, in 2017-18 season, the regular season total attendance was 904,161 over 336 games. Now, for this year, less teams, less games. The regular season total attendance, 911,829. So what's that? 7,000, just over 7,000 more fans in 18 less games. What do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that at the moment it's less games. By the time we finish, there's slightly more. Because each team is playing more games.
Fair, but...
There is slightly more, but they've passed it before the end of the season.
Exactly, they've passed it with like a dozen games to go, half a dozen games to go, which is pretty cool.
I mean, we've been talking in the past about how, attendances are down and, you know, people aren't watching it anymore and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And... you know what I find really interesting is the attendances are still going up, even though there's webcasts.
Yeah. Oh, what a surprise! Well, it's almost as if people that watch the webcast are the people that can't actually get to the arena to watch the game live, and the people that can watch the game live buy a ticket and go. I mean,
Lions webcast
it just doesn't make any
sense.
It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you would think that if there was a webcast, the arena would be empty because everyone would want to sit on their arse and watch it from home. But no, apparently the live experience is so much better. So people want to go and see it. What a surprise! But in terms of the Challenge Cup, of course, there's been less games of the Challenge Cup. Of course, the Challenge Cup is now over. So the total attendance
you keep
for the
saying
Challenge
is
Cup,
pointless and horrible.
It is. The Challenge Cup total attendance, but the figures are here, so I'm going to say them. The total attendance for the Challenge Cup over all of the rounds, 123,070 over 49 games. And for the Challenge Cup this year, only 111,929. However, that's only over 43 games. So last year, there were 6 more games played. So the averages, the attendance for the Challenge Cup games this year have actually averaged more. There's been an average of 2,603 at each game, compared to last year, 2,512. So, that's pretty cool. And then for... what's that? Oh, I don't know. So I think this is the total. That's the total again. Yeah? I think so. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, I think this is really good. I think this is really awesome. Oh, actually, here we go. Sorry. Season total to date. I couldn't quite see it. My webcam's stuck in the way. So, season total for the 2017-18 season, 1,086,044 attendance over 397 games, which averages out at 2,000 736 people per game. Up until today, according to the Elite League, the attendance figures, we have currently hit 1,023,758 over 361 games. So, once again, not as much attendance, not as many games played. I can't remember if you mentioned it just now, Chris, or just before we started the podcast. Of course, we've still got like a dozen games left to play. Because each of the teams at least have 2 or 3 games left to play. And, they've played 36 less games this year compared to last year. And their average attendance is up 100. Exactly 100 per game, which I think is really cool. So, Chris, the attendance this year compared to last year, better, worse, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone past 1 million. We're still lower than last year, but we've got the games to play.
So we're what, 59,000 away roughly?
How many? 59,000 roughly, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 games left at roughly 2.5 each. Did you say?
The average this year is 2,800 roughly.
Yeah, so that's what 30. In the low 30s, so,
okay. So
not quite going to reach it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
still good though.
Yeah, still good. It's always. I think it's been a bit weird this year. Always having one team miss out on a weekend. I guess it's kind of potentially thrown some people off because they're used to always being there, and some teams must not catch up. But I mean, it's going to be down, but by such a small amount.
I think you've also got to take into account the Sheffield Steelers have had an abysmal season, and they're one of the biggest arena teams. But to be fair, their attendance has been pretty solid throughout the year. But if they were winning more games, they would have. I would imagine they would have sold more seats. The Nottingham Panthers at points have really struggled, to the point where, like you've mentioned, when you've been at games, people have walked out early. That's probably affected whether they've wanted to go back the next game. And it only takes 100 or 200 people to not go back, and then that has a little bit of an impact. So it's compared to there's lots of different factors that go into it, obviously, and of course we've had one less team in the league. Like, that's a pretty big factor in it all. Sure, Edinburgh didn't have the biggest arena and the largest fan base, but that's still people in seats. And everything that I've heard about the Edinburgh Capitals fan base was they were dedicated and they were loyal.
Oh, they were.
So you're missing out on all of them.
One thing that struck me, and it's slightly unrelated, but I want to bring it up now rather than in the playoff push.
Okay.
Schönemaz got sacked from the Panthers.
He did.
Because his target was 90 points.
Yeah.
Now, Cardiff have only just hit 90 points with 2 games to go. The league, what looks as though may well be champions.
Yeah.
Are only going to hit him.
Although I would probably argue that he probably lost that locker room as well, and that was probably the bigger reason he was fired. But yeah, I get what you mean.
But saying to get 90 points out of a possible 120.
Well, essentially his target was come first in the league, win the league.
Yeah.
Which is a tough thing to do in this league. But with the roster that he had, I think anybody at the beginning of the season would have said they definitely have a very strong chance to do so. So, it's just the way it goes, I guess. Yeah. So, that was to do with the attendance figures. Of course, you can go and check them yourself on the Elite League website. The article was only published yesterday, so I'm sure you'll find it there if you're interested. Now, we've got one more little piece of information regarding the Elite League that was released about 2 or 3 hours ago. It was really very quickly. And I had to send it straight to Chris, be like, we need to talk about this, because I think it's quite a big thing. So, it was announced earlier today that David Clark and Tyndale, have been inducted into the UK Ice Hockey Hall of Fame, which is really cool. You guys know that I'm a big fan of David Clark. He's one of the players that I kind of latched onto as I started to follow the league as a Panthers fan. And yeah, if you want to know a little bit more about them, if you've either never heard of them, which is fine, or it's been a while since you've heard of them. So David Clarke began his career with his hometown club, Peterborough. He also iced for Newcastle, Milton Keynes, London and Guildford before joining the Nottingham Panthers in 2003. He scored 366 goals and 722 points in the Elite League and played in 92 games for Great Britain, which is currently 4th all-time on the list. And George Heppel Holt Tyndale, or Hep Tyndale, also known as Hep, was a County Durham native. He enjoyed a long and productive career with his local Wasps from the 1960s to the 1980s, playing defence and centre, and in later seasons was their player coach. Tyndale learned to skate in the Durham rink at the age of 10, working his way up to the junior system for the Mosquitoes to the Hornets, and joining the senior Wasps at 15. So I think that's really cool. Like, they've got a guy that has been the best player in the league, or has been... I mean, he's what, second in the league history in points now? Because he's behind Colin Shields.
He is now, yeah.
Yeah, so he's in the top 2 all-time of points scored in the Elite League. And but what I really like about this is I didn't know who Hep Tyndale was. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Let me go and research that. And I think it's really cool that they've got somebody that's just had so much commitment to one club for their entire career. It's like the Milton Keynes Thunder player we were talking about either last week or the week before.
Ross Bowers.
And yeah, exactly. And the fact that the hockey community came together and... because he'd been so dedicated to that franchise for such a long time, and he was clearly a well-respected player in the British hockey system, I think it's really awesome. Like 20 years with a team, whether you're playing beer league hockey or whether you're playing in the best league in the country, that's a really difficult thing to do. Like, because over 20 years, life gets in the way a lot of the time. I mean, imagine like somebody being on YouTube from when they were 20 to when they were 40. Like, so much is going to happen in between that time. And the fact that he's been able to be so crucial to that Durham team and that Durham organisation, that Durham system, I think is really cool. So, to me, it looks like 2 very well-deserving people to go into the UK Hall of Fame. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Clarkey is no kind of hesitation at all.
I think there was a quote here from somebody that was part of the panel. Yeah, Stuart Roberts, who is a member of the selection committee, said David Clarke was one of the easiest choices the committee has ever had to make.
Yeah, I mean, you were never going to not put Clarkey in there, were you?
No.
I'm a bit like you. I had to look. Is it Hepdale? Sorry.
Yes, Hep Tyndale.
Hep Tyndale, that's it. I had to look him up because I knew it was a name that I hadn't really heard. So so I knew it was quite an old one. I didn't realise quite how old it was.
To be fair, there is also a quote here from Stuart Roberts again saying, "The name Hep Tyndale probably won't mean much to the modern hockey fan, but on reviewing his career, we felt his scoring and leadership achievements with the famous Durham Wasps club and for his country richly deserved some overdue recognition." So I think that's really cool. I think that's really awesome. You know?
Yeah, I mean, my first port of call was Elite Prospects, as it always is with this sort of thing.
Of course.
And obviously being so long ago, the stats aren't quite there. But so I was a little bit confused. So that I was like, hang on, he seems to have played for like 3 seasons and not done anything particularly special. Why is he? And then obviously when you go in and explain it.
Yeah, when you realise he's played 20 years for his local club.
Yeah, whereas according to Elite Prospects, he played like 3 years.
It's like, why is he there?
Yeah, I was like, what?
So I thought that was really cool. I mean, that continues since Clarkey has finished his career. He's had his number retired by the Panthers. He's got into the UK Ice Hockey Hall of Fame. Where is the UK Ice Hockey Hall of Fame? That's what I want to know. Because I want to visit that at some point.
I think it must be that level 4 at the National Ice Centre that nobody ever is allowed to go to.
Oh, I'm going to check it now. I've got a link to their Hall of Fame page. I want to see where this Hall of Fame is. I'm genuinely curious, because I feel like it's in Scotland. I feel like it's in Fife. I can't quite remember.
Would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because of course,
Max just says on the internet. Yeah, it might just be a virtual one.
Maybe. But I feel like there is like an actual place You know, I don't know if I can find it. Hall of Fame. Just talk to me about the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I can't find it.
Ben says he thinks it's in Edinburgh.
Maybe it's where the Edinburgh Capitals used to play.
Yes, Ben.
So yeah, I thought that was a nice piece of information to talk about. Well done, Clarkey. Well done, Tyndale. But anyway, that is quite literally all the news we had to talk about regarding the Elite League. When we said it was a slow news week, we really meant it was a slow news week.
Yeah.
So, playoff picture. Like Chris said as we started, most teams have either 2 or 3 games left to play in the season. There's only 2 teams have a single game left, and that's the Panthers and the Steelers. At very different places in the standings as well. But as it stands right now, there is only 1 playoff space or playoff berth available left in the Elite League for this year's playoffs. And that's the last place, obviously. And you've got 3 teams fighting for it. The Coventry Blaze, the Manchester Storm, and to an extent, the Dundee Stars. I'll leave the Dundee Stars in there, because, I mean, their game against Cardiff has brought them back into the picture, I would argue. So, the Coventry Blaze have 58 points. The Manchester Storm have 57 points. The Dundee Stars have 56 points. So we're almost as close as it can get here. Now, the games in hand, I think, is quite an important thing to talk about. Games in hand. Coventry Blaze have 3 games remaining, and they're on 58 points. The Manchester Storm have 2 games remaining. They're on 57 points. And the Dundee Stars also have 2 games remaining. They're on 56 points. So for the Dundee Stars, the best case scenario, they could finish the season with 60 points. The Manchester Storm, the best they could finish with is 61. The Coventry Blaze, the best they can finish with is 64. So, and considering Coventry are in that 8th spot in the league at the moment, I mean, I don't think it's an unfair thing to say. This is Coventry's berth to lose, you know? Like, they're in the driving seat.
I didn't sound good.
Moment, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, if we want to talk about the top of the table as well, just before I get your thoughts, Chris. So Cardiff have 2 games left to play. Now, if they won their last game, I believe it was against Dundee, right? If they won their last game, they would have clinched the championship. They would have clinched the Elite League first place. Would have been the 3rd consecutive year that they've done that, which is incredible for most teams, or most teams in any league. So Cardiff on 90 points with 2 games left. They lost their game against Dundee, which has had quite a big impact on both the top of the table and the playoff push towards the bottom. And Belfast, they have 3 games remaining, and they have 86 points. So, best case scenario for Cardiff, they stay in top, 94 points, they win the league. Best case scenario for the Belfast Giants, they can finish the season with 92 points. All they need Cardiff to do is lose one of their last 2 games, and Belfast need to go complete winning streak, and they might just take it. You know? In terms of the middle of the standings, the Nottingham Panthers have locked in at 3rd place, I believe. Yeah, they have.
No.
I thought they had.
Nope. That's why I've got my graph, you see.
I thought the Panthers came out and said that they'd clinched it. I guess...
Yeah. I looked into it.
Hang on a minute. Yes, they have, because the Glasgow Clan, all they can get is 69 points. They've only got 2 games remaining.
No. Look at 5 in 6th.
Oh, okay.
3 games to go. 6 points back. If 5 win all 3 of their games in regulation, has to be in regulation,
yep,
and the Panthers lose their final game in regulation, 5 take 3rd spot on total wins.
Wow. I mean, whether that happens or not, of course, is very much up for debate. And that's requiring the Panthers to lose their last game of the season as well, which, I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Panthers this year.
But it has to be in regulation.
I mean, Glasgow have completely imploded. They're on a 6-game losing streak. The best they can finish with is 69 points. So, I mean, if I'm looking at the table here, I mean, I'm gonna make some sort of informed prediction. It's not going to be right at all, because I never am, let's be honest. So, I think Cardiff are going to stay in 1st place. If Belfast do manage to jump over them, I'll tip my hat to them, because it's still technically possible. I wouldn't put it past this Belfast team, but I think that Cardiff have done just enough to be able to clinch that first spot. What do you think, Chris? Do you think that would happen, or are you going?
Yeah,
with
no,
Belfast?
I think Cardiff have got it.
Okay, so third place, I think the Panthers have got that locked in. I don't think Fife's going to catch them.
Well, Fife have to play Belfast, so it will be tough for them.
Well, that's going to be that's got quite a lot of implications on playoff positioning for both teams. Then,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think Nottingham's going to take third, but then the sort of 4th to 7th, that's where it comes a bit more of a grey area, because we've got Glasgow with 65 points, Guildford and Fife on 64, and Sheffield on 62. Now, if Sheffield lose their last game of the season, they'll finish the season with 62 points, which, considering the beginning of the season they had, like, I sincerely tip my hat to Tom Barrasso there and the Sheffield Steelers. They have turned this season around. Like, they're actually a team above 500. That's taken them most of the year to work out, but they could potentially end the season with a 500 record, which, I mean, they could hit 30 regulation wins, which, considering how awful they were at the bottom of the league at one point by a noticeable margin. So fair play to the Sheffield Steelers. But there could potentially be the situation where they are the 8th seed. I mean, if things work out that way, because Coventry, if they win their last 3 games, they overtake Sheffield, you know? I mean, I don't think that'll happen potentially. I think Sheffield will take that 7th seed, because they can only either get 7th or 8th at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I did that graph this morning because it was all a bit of a mess.
You did. I'll bring it up for people now.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Chris can talk you through it.
Yeah.
So,
Personally, I don't think Coventry will catch Sheffield.
I'll put it right in front of Chris's face. There you go.
All right.
Talk us through it, Chris.
Well, my thing is slightly delayed, obviously, watching back on YouTube, but I don't think... Oh, my God. Okay, so I don't think that Coventry will catch Sheffield for the pure reason that Coventry have got to play Cardiff and Belfast in their last 3 games.
Right.
So I don't think they're going to do it. So anyway, this graph here, what I've done is I've made
right
it...
over your face.
I don't care. So I love how you've left your face free.
Well, of course I have. Come on. I'm the star of the show, bud.
So this shows the positions that teams can finish in.
Yeah.
And
so at the top you've got the position in the league, right? So 1 to 11, that's the place in the league.
That's where they are now, yeah.
Yeah. Then you've got the teams down the bottom, down the left, and where it's highlighted is the position in the league that they can finish.
Yeah, so those are the positions that they could still finish in. So Cardiff and Belfast can only finish 1 and 2. Milton Keynes can only finish 11.
Yeah.
That's the way that this is working. So as you can see, Dundee and Manchester can only get into 8th.
Right. Yeah.
And things have to go their way.
Yeah.
Coventry could leapfrog Sheffield if they win all their games.
Yes.
And as I was saying, Fife can still do the biggest move because they, in theory, could still drop down to 8th.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, because of their games in hand, they could still climb as high as 3rd.
Right.
But as you can see on the right, Fife only have 20 regulation wins, the Panthers have 23, which is why I said Fife have to win everything in regulation to tie on regulation wins with the Panthers, but then Fife would win in total wins.
Right.
So in the 3rd tiebreaker, so to speak.
Because Fife Fife have 3 games in hand, so hang on a minute. Well, because Nottingham only have 29 regulation wins, don't they?
No, they've got 23. They've got 23 regulation wins. That win column is all wins.
Yeah, sorry. Fair point. Fair point. Yeah, I get you.
So I had to go. If you go on the bottom where it says "click here," it shows you everything broken down really properly.
Does it?
Yeah, but it comes. It's like a lot of numbers and it looks horrible.
Oh, I'm not bothering with that.
Yeah, but that's what I use because that's how you break down the proper wins and everything.
Okay. I think you've done quite a good job of explaining it, though. To be fair.
Yeah. So Fife can catch the Panthers. Obviously, Glasgow could drop to 6, but as you can see there, 7 of the teams are guaranteed a playoff spot.
Yeah. So
which we knew.
The teams from Cardiff to Sheffield have clinched a playoff berth. It's only the number 8th spot that we don't know who's going to go in. So somebody mentioned earlier about can Sheffield drop out of the playoffs? No, Sheffield are in.
Yeah, because although Coventry can overtake them and drop Sheffield down to 8th, Manchester can't catch Sheffield and nor can Dundee. So Sheffield are guaranteed to be in the playoffs. What is crucial for Sheffield is they're also guaranteed to be in the bottom half. They can't catch 4th.
Yes, because I'm assuming they're going to they can only take the 7th or 8th seed. You are right, because technically they can jump up to which what is it? 5th?
Yeah, because they have more regulation wins than Guildford and Fife.
Exactly, but at the same time, I'll just get rid of this now. Boom. But at the same time, Sheffield have only 1 game remaining, whereas the other teams around them have either 2 or 3. So
precisely,
I'm assuming,
and they only need to pick up 1 point from those 2 or 3.
Exactly, 1 point in 6 games. It isn't too much to ask, or 1 point in 3 games isn't a huge amount. Of course, some teams might not, but I would expect Sheffield to take either the 7th or 8th spot. I'm thinking the 7th. Yeah. So, Chris, if you take us down 1 to 11, how do you think, when we look at this next week, how do you think it's going to look?
Okay, so I personally think the top 3 are going to be the same.
I agree.
So Cardiff winning the league.
Yep.
They have 2 games to play on 90 points. Yep. Belfast in second. They've got 3 games to play. They're on 86 points. They've only got 3 games to play, but they're 2 games back.
Yeah.
Nottingham are in third with 70 points. 1 game to go. And then this is where it starts to get a bit interesting.
Okay.
Now, I think, to be honest, that Fife are going to get into 4th. Because they do have the game in hand. They've got to play Belfast. What's going to be key is that Fife are playing Belfast. The final weekend is a double header, Fife against Glasgow.
Oh, that's going to be huge.
So that's going to be huge.
Wow.
It's a 1 home, 1 away.
Okay.
Guildford have got to go to Nottingham and then play Dundee. Dundee are going to be fighting for their lives on that final game.
Yes. They really
and
are.
I think that if Fife get the 2 victories against Glasgow, then that's kind of, Glasgow out of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think...
if Fife get the 2 victories against Glasgow, they could drop to where Fife is. So, yeah, they'd probably take the 6th seed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that because Guildford have got Nottingham and Dundee, Glasgow have got... Obviously, the middle of the table is going to be that Fife Glasgow doubleheader. I agree with you that I think Sheffield are going to take 7th.
Yeah.
And I do think that Coventry are going to have the 8th spot. Although they do have Belfast and Cardiff, both at home. Yeah. The other game is Manchester.
Oh, yeah. I
now, Manchester have got Milton Keynes and Coventry.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So there are a lot of... bits around there that are a little bit messy, so to speak.
But then again, like we said with this league, every single episode, like, no team is guaranteed a victory.
No.
Which, I mean, if you said that a couple of years ago, you'd be like, what about Edinburgh? So we honestly cannot predict how the bottom of the table is going to go. It's just, I mean, it's fun too, absolutely. I think the one X factor in all of this, especially with Glasgow, is, like I said earlier, they're on a 6-game losing streak. They're going to need to, if they want to have any sort of success in the postseason, they're going to need to snap that before they make the playoffs. Like, you don't want to go down in, you don't want to go into the postseason on an 8-game losing streak.
No, I mean the Belfast Coventry game on Wednesday. Because I can't remember how many reg wins have Belfast got in relation to Cardiff.
I don't know. I've only got the Elite League standings up here, and it says wins. Belfast have 42 wins on the season, and you're asking Coventry 25.
No, I mean against Cardiff. I know I put it on that graph, but I can't remember now.
I don't know.
Because Belfast title could be over on Wednesday, couldn't it? If they lose.
That's a very good point. I forgot about that, yeah.
But then again, if Belfast win on Wednesday, which you would probably have them as the favourites to do against Coventry,
they're
then only 1 game back with 2 games to go. They then play on Friday, win that, level. Admittedly, Cardiff will have a game in hand, but that puts the pressure right onto Cardiff.
And
obviously, at the bottom, if Coventry lose on Wednesday, they're all of a sudden, they've lost that game in hand with Manchester and they're only a point back.
yeah, that's very true. That is very true. Oh, it's just so interesting to go through all the
It
little
is.
intricacies. I know some people might find that bit so boring to be like, oh, we'll find out what happens. But I think this is like the franchise hockey manager fans within us, just like looking at those little intricacies and going, oh, this is so interesting. So, yeah, that's a look at the standings of the Elite League and the playoff picture. Oh, we're coming down to the wire. I should also mention that what is it? The Coventry Belfast game, I believe it's being shown on Free Sports. So,
Yes.
watch that. I probably will be. It's going to be good. And like we said, there's quite a big implication because if Belfast lose that, they're out of the title race. If Coventry lose that, they lose quite a fair bit of ground, you know. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be really, really cool to see what happens. But anyway, let's move on to our play under review. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is where we take a specific topic, usually within British hockey, that isn't necessarily part of the Elite League. It might be something else that's happened, and we basically have a chat about it. I mean, it's a podcast. We just chat about everything anyway. So, this is something that I found on the 21st of March, so it's about 4 days ago, and this is something that I don't really know a huge amount about. I reckon, Chris, you know a little bit more than me about it.
I do know a little bit more, yeah.
So, I want to talk about this. This is talking like lower league hockey stuff in the country. So, there is a she's a hockey player, female hockey player called Nats Aldridge. And she put up a tweet on the 21st of March with a couple of screenshots of her writing on notes on an iPhone or an iPad. You know how most people do it to get past the characters.
Yeah.
So she prefaced that by saying, this is her message to @EIHL official, which is the English Ice Hockey Association Twitter handle, about the women's playoffs. There are a lot of pretty pictures and nice posts, but underneath it all, the UK is going backwards with regards to women's hockey growth and development. Now, I've got all of the different screenshots and stuff here, so I'm going to read them to you. So, dear EIHA, thank you for finally deciding on a venue for the women's playoffs with 10 weeks to go. For you to tweet #Women's Movement Never Stops is amusing, as it has definitely stopped for the last couple of months, with no urgency to find a new venue for what is meant to be the most important weekend of their year. Or she says of the year, but it's of their year, obviously. Would you have allowed the Ice to be, quote, double booked for any of the men's playoffs or even the junior finals? No. All of that seems on track, and they all seem to be in central venues. You can say it is not your, quote, fault, and it is Ice Sheffield's. Wow, we're going to talk about a name drop. But how does that work? How does that work when, one, you at the beginning of each season should be confirming Ice for big events. Two, you have to approve all tournaments. You have to approve all tournaments. Sorry. The fact you have known for months and only just announced a new date is not, all capitalised, exciting for any of us. This is no criticism to, was it Widnes? I don't know how you pronounce that. Widnes? Okay. This is no criticism. I should know how to pronounce these things. I live here. This is no criticism of Widnes, as they are doing women's hockey a favour, but I assume that's where they're playing now for the final. But I would like you to think what you are actually doing for women's hockey to inspire players to want to turn up. And now she's got a couple of bullet points. Teams are out of pocket due to Sheffield hotel rooms already paid for. Teams now have to drive that bit further and potentially book 2 nights instead of 1, as you haven't announced a schedule. The Elite League, 4 of the teams are down south, 1 in the Midlands, 1 in the north. The Premier League, teams are more likely to go are in the Midlands. Southern and Northern League are self-explanatory, so why wouldn't you pick a more central venue? This destination seems like, again, nobody has considered the fact that we are not professionals and we are paying for everything ourselves. The Women's League seasons are ridiculously long, let alone with our playoffs already bumped to June for conference weekend. Has anyone actually noticed that since it has moved weekends, the atmosphere is non-existent, which I think is a very fair point. No teams stay to watch each other as everyone has work or school on the Monday. This is no longer a motivational weekend for teams. I strongly suggest this gets reviewed for the future, as we have gone backwards. Every other women's sport seems to be making great strides in this country. Take a look at the Football Association Women's Soccer League, is that? FAWSL?
Super League.
Super League, sorry.
Super League.
I was wondering why it would be Soccer League. Rugby and netball, for example, which I think she makes a very fair point. They're making very big strides. I think you would be able to attest to that, Chris, as you do women's football.
The game I commentated on yesterday had 1,252 people. Normally you get about 100.
Wow, that's awesome. So just to finish off, there are too many people talking about women's ice hockey because it's a buzzword, not because they genuinely want to do something about it. Then, of course, to do everything right, she puts at the end, all thoughts are my own and not the club. So, of course, you have to put that. I think it's shit that you have to put that nowadays, but you have to put it. So, this is obviously a female hockey player that is very, very upset with what's happened here. Now, I must admit, I don't know the context behind most of this. I think she's made it quite clear sort of the things that were wrong. By the sounds of it, Ice Sheffield went to the EIHL and went, we can't actually hold this event anymore. Something's happened. Whether it was their fault or not, I don't know, but something has taken place. The EIHL have gone, oh, shit, okay then. We'll put it here. And it's somewhere that isn't the most central destination that it could be. And of course, because they've announced this even, well, with only 10 weeks to go, which in the grand scheme of things isn't very much, most teams have had to reschedule everything. And like, if you look at the state of the Elite League in this country, it's still a very small thing. And of course, I'm not going into the whole like men's league versus female league. I don't care about that. That's not what we're talking about here. Like, that's a conversation for another day. If you want to voice your opinion on that, feel free, but we're not talking about it. We're talking specifically about the women's league here. I think this is a really shit situation for them, to be honest. Like, of course, I've only heard the one side of the story. I haven't seen any response from the EIHL, to be fair. In fairness, the EIHL, this isn't the first time that they've done something a bit messed up. I think I sent something to Chris about it. They sent the wrong medals out to some of the winners recently.
Yes, they did
were
do
last
that.
years medals, and they were
last year's from a different competition. Yeah,
exactly. So like, now, of course, this is a tough situation for both sides because the EIHL, they're not exactly the biggest sport in this country. They're still trying their best. Their job is feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but the job of the EIHL is primarily they primarily focus on the junior leagues and the lower leagues in the country. Is that correct?
Well, yes, the EIHL is kind of basically everybody apart from the Elite League.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the best of the best sort of league in this country, and the highest quality players we have in the country and from abroad, they don't really touch that much. They're mainly focused on the development, on the sort of getting people interested in the sport to begin with, keeping them interested in the sport and giving them opportunities to play the sport. And of course, they clearly have a lot to do with women's hockey as well, because women's hockey isn't that big from what I can see in this country. I mean, the Elite League isn't that big either, so all of the leagues, whether it's junior, women's league, Elite League, they've still all got a very long way to go, clearly. So, Chris, now that you've heard all of this, is there any specific thing you want to mention, or what are your initial thoughts now that you've heard it in detail?
So, I admit that quite a bit of this is coming. I mean, this has been kind of going for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a lot of it from memory, so it might not all be correct. So apologies for that if it is. But from what I can remember, it was booked in, and then I think it was booked as on the same pad as like the junior conference games.
Right.
The conference national finals, where you have North, Midlands, South East, what have you.
Okay.
And then rather than moving the juniors, they've moved the women from Ice Sheffield,
Right.
and from what I can remember, there was a time when it was like, well, we haven't got Ice Sheffield anymore, but then they didn't say, but we've got such and such. There was like a gap.
Well, they're kind of like, we're working on it.
Where everyone went, well, what's happening? All of a sudden, we haven't got conference finals. What's going on? What?
And I can imagine they stay quite silent on that.
Yeah, and then they've announced that it's over in Widnes, which is Liverpool, basically.
Right.
Which, isn't the easiest place to get to when you consider that you've got, in the Elite League, Bracknell, Guildford, Kingston, Streatham, Swindon. The closest one is Solihull, and that's Birmingham.
Right.
It's it's not the easiest of places, and like the women naturally they feel as though they've been pushed out because their conference finals are now in June. Well, who's around in June for ice hockey? It's all
exactly, and
you're
I
into
think,
the cricket, you're into going on summer holiday, you're into everything.
And I think rightly so. They should feel like they've been pushed out because they have. I think that's quite literally what's happened to them, isn't it? Like Sheffield. So just correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to make sure that I've got the understanding based on what you've said. So Ice Sheffield booked both the junior conference finals and the women's conference finals. So it was another hockey tournament that pushed them out, as opposed to a completely different venue. And the reason I say that is because, of course, hockey in this country, and we hear it with the Elite League quite a lot as well, because it's not the biggest sport and it doesn't pull in the biggest money in this country, especially with the bigger arenas, there are a lot of events that take place when there aren't hockey games going on. So what they'll do is they'll book the games on the calendar and then fit other events in between, or see where events are already booked and work the Elite League season around it. With sort of other venues and other companies and other entertainment coming in to take the space isn't an unusual thing in this country.
And like I say, I must stress that I believe I saw it somewhere, but I can't remember 100% that that's the reason why.
Okay.
I think the junior ones, I think it's in the Easter holidays.
Right, so we're talking a couple of weeks.
Yeah, which is why they didn't want to move, because the kids are all, they can have a weekend away because they're not missing school.
Yeah, but at the same time, as one of the female players, like, you're being pushed aside for a bunch of kids.
Yeah, and at the same time, some of the female players are still in college and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
so it's the same situation. And yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have the ice availability.
No.
But it's the same. Like I say, if it was the junior conference, which I think it was, but I'm not 100%, then it's the same governing body that have booked both events.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is just like a no-no for anything.
Yeah, and like I say, they're out of pocket because they've booked hotels and everything. Because I'm not being funny, but it's not like you're just going away with with your partner or anything for a weekend. You're taking a whole team of 20-odd people.
Yeah, and
booking
all the coaching
10
staff.
rooms of the 10, 12, like 15 rooms of a hotel for an entire weekend.
Yeah, the coaching staff, the trainers.
Yeah.
The equipment staff. Yeah, absolutely.
The bus, you probably already booked the bus to go from point A to point B.
Yeah. In an ideal world, the EIHA would go, listen, we know we fucked up and we want to make this right. Like, even if they don't refer to anything with, like, where it's being held and, like, leave the final tournament out of this for now. If they could, and whether they can or not, of course, is up for question, but I don't think they can. They would go, look, send us the receipts for the stuff that, like, for the hotel rooms in Sheffield and the coach costs to get there, and we'll reimburse you, either a half of it or all of it, whatever they could do. The problem is, the EIHA don't really have that much money, I would imagine. I mean, that's purely speculation. I don't know how much money the EIHA pulls in, but I can imagine when you've got female players having to pay for everything themselves, it's not that much money.
No, it's not. The main source of income, because of course there's no TV deal or anything like that. The main source of income is from the player registrations. which are around 120, 130 pound per player per year.
Right.
So you think that's per team? I mean, that's in. I don't know if it's less in the leagues lower down, but that's in the Lions League in the
We're talking like
EIHL
$2,000
one.
a team.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at just over $2,000, $2.5 a team, say, times by 10 in the north. That's 25. 10 in the is it 8 in the south? I think Crossy. That's getting up towards 50 plus the rest.
Yeah, and then they've got however many other costs to deal with and staff that they have to employ to do stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the interesting thing that she does bring up though is that final statement she makes. There are too many people talking about women's ice hockey because it's a buzzword, not because they genuinely want to talk or want to do something about it. Now, like I've said, we're talking specifically about women's hockey. Of course, you can be like, oh well, women's hockey, like people aren't interested in it because it doesn't get seen enough or it's not advertised enough, and to an extent they're fair things to say. I think one of the reasons, I think the most obvious reason why women's hockey has been in the public eye a little bit more as of late is the stuff that happened at the NHL All-Star game with Kendall Coyne-Schofield taking part in the fastest skater competition, and all of the women's hockey players in the NWHL and the CWHL, I believe, are the two leagues out there. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I know there's two leagues. Lots of people want them to merge into one, but there's an American and a Canadian women's hockey league, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a women's elite league here. Did you know there was a women's elite league?
No, not at all.
Exactly.
I knew that there was women's hockey. I knew the CWHL and the NWHL. Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew that. I keep up to date with quite a lot of what the women's hockey do because I have I follow GB Ice Hockey on Twitter, so I often see on my news feed stuff that's happening with that. But women's elite ice hockey, I had no idea. I think it's kind of like, I'm not surprised that there is one because it's like, well, yeah, it's just the same as any other league in any other country. You have the male equivalent, the female equivalent, but like it's not talked about.
Yeah, well, there's only 6 teams in the Women's Elite League.
Right.
And they only play, not sure how many games each, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 19 each, which is a bit strange, but maybe it's 20 each. But,
yeah.
It's not a big...
No.
It's not a big...
and I mean, we talk about the Elite League being a small league. I mean, talking about the Women's Elite League, because it doesn't have that same sort of advertising, it doesn't have that same history either, I would argue, because it we're talking about like the Nottingham Panthers and the Five Flyers that have been going for like 70 years. The Women's Elite League, I mean, women's sports, of course, like most of them are still very much in their infant stages. Like they're still establishing themselves and are in the very early parts of their history, so it takes time to build up those audiences and build up the product and the quality of what's there. So
I mean, it's not big. I mean, the Bracknell Queen Bees, who are at the top of the Elite League, their game against Streatham on yesterday actually, sorry, they iced 10 skaters and 2 netminders.
Wow.
Streatham had 1 netminder, 12 skaters. That's it.
Wow.
That's the teams that they can put together, and they're still playing 60-minute games on that.
Yeah. Which is crazy. The reason why I've wanted to make it abundantly clear that we're just specifically talking about women's hockey is because I do think there's a little bit of a stigma still about women's hockey and women's sport in general. I think a lot of people people like to make jokes, of course. I just want to make it abundantly clear that I'm not making a comment on whether male hockey is better than female hockey. Like, hockey in general is great. I don't give a shit about the quality. I watch the Elite League. Like, come on. I mean, if I was concerned about the quality, I'd only watch the NHL because they are the best of the best, and the World Championships. I watch the KHL when I can. I watch I've watched the lower divisions of the World Championships when I can. I watched the Elite League. Like, I'm just more interested in the sport as a whole. You know, like
I tell you what, actually, because obviously I work in women's football. It's actually more friendly than normal sport, because all of the kind of, I mean, obviously in football, the hooligans and the thugs and the people that go and swear and curse all the time go, oh, I'm not going to watch women's football. Women can't play football because they're all those sexist ones.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
Everybody who goes is really friendly, really lovely, you know.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah, I would imagine the environment's really nice there.
It is, yeah.
So, yeah, I hate that I have to bring up the fact that it's like, I'm not talking about whether men are better than women or women better than men. It's like, I just want to cover my tracks here, just in case somebody watches the podcast down the line. It's like, oh, if I do ever become 100,000 subscribers, which I never will, but if that ever happens, then like, oh, Odd Man Rush is a sexist. It's like, fuck off, no, I'm not.
No. And I'm certainly not, because I work in the women's sport industry.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Chris commentates like every fucking weekend, you know. Like, I do think she makes some fair points though.
She does.
Her Twitter handle is @NatsAldridge. So if you wanted to go and check out the tweets yourself, they are on her Twitter. They're still on there, I believe. So this isn't like go and know exactly who this is and go and send a load of hate. Just look at the tweets if you want to. If you don't care about the tweets, don't. You know, it's a simple thing to do. Right, anyway, let's move on from the British hockey and the British hockey system over the pond to the National Hockey League. Now, we're just going to run through the standings, and, I mean, there isn't really a huge amount to talk about this week.
No, it's just teams that have clinched playoff berths, really, isn't it?
Yeah, teams that haven't. So, you know, it's just like normal stuff, really. The President's Trophy, Tampa Bay Lightning are still in the lead. 58 wins on the season.
Now.
What's that?
They've got it now.
Yeah, they had the President's Trophy last week, I believe.
Not quite. I think they needed like one more point from 12 games.
Yeah, I think it was the day after we finished the podcast.
Naturally,
I think it was that night or something. Yeah. So they are getting very close to potentially setting a record or getting in one of the top records of most wins in a regular season. Which they
have to tie it, didn't we? We established this because I quizzed you on it, didn't they? If they win their remaining 6 games, they get 132, which is the record.
No. I mean based on specific wins as opposed to overall points.
Oh right, sorry, yeah.
Because I think there's a Detroit team up there and a Montreal team up there. I think they're like 4th in history in like most wins in a season.
Yeah.
Something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. If somebody could find it for me, that'd be great. So Tampa Bay, first place with 120 points, absolutely demolishing the rest of the league. Although they lost to St. Louis, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
The Calgary Flames and the Boston Bruins, who have both clinched playoff berths as well. I'll go through that now as well. Both on 101 points. 4th place are Washington with 96 points. They haven't clinched a berth yet, though, because the Metro Division sucks this year by the looks of it. 95 points for San Jose and the Islanders. San Jose have clinched a berth as well. I'll go through a more comprehensive list of all of the teams that have clinched berths afterwards. Toronto and Winnipeg have 94 points each. Toronto lost in overtime to the Rangers. They lost to the Rangers. Alexander Georgiev was solid in that game. Very well played. Toronto, you suck. So Pittsburgh, 93 points for 9th place in the league. Carolina, 91 points for 10th place in the league. Vegas and Nashville, 11th and 12th with 90 points each. 88 points for St. Louis and Montreal, who take 13th and 14th in the league. Columbus, 86 points for 15th place in the league. Then we have the Dallas Stars with 82 points for 16th place. Colorado with 81 points for 17th place. Philadelphia, 80 points for 18th place. Then we've got Minnesota and Arizona, both with 79 points each for 19th and 20th. The Florida Panthers with 78 points for 21st. The Chicago Blackhawks with 76 points for 22nd. The Edmonton Oilers and Vancouver Canucks. One team kind of expected to be there. One team really shouldn't have been there. I'll let you guess which one's which. 74 points for both to take 23rd and 24th in the league. I want to talk about something regarding the Edmonton Oilers in a minute, which is really quite funny. The Anaheim Ducks, 72 points for 25th place in the league. The Buffalo Sabres, 71 points. And the New York Rangers, 71 points for 26th. Hey, we're looking for that top 5 pick. I'll take it. I mean, we weren't going to win the season this year. Let's just tank it, you know. The New Jersey Devils in 28th place with 65. The Detroit Red Wings, 64 points to take 29th. The Los Angeles Kings with 62 points to take 30th. And in last place, the Ottawa Senators, but technically the Colorado Avalanche because they've got that first overall pick. 58 points for 31st in the league. Now, Chris, I want to ask you, did you hear what the... I can't remember if it was the owner or one of the like really high up guys in the Oilers organization. He did like a fan question thing, or he did an interview or a press conference at some point this last week or so, and he was asked like about why the team have sucked this year, essentially, and he came out with the statement that he basically said Tobias Reeder is the reason we're not in the playoffs. Now, first of all, do you know who Tobias Reeder is?
No.
He's a German hockey player who has previously been part of the Arizona Coyotes organization. He signed with the Oilers this season as a free agent to quite a low contract. He hasn't scored a single goal this year. And essentially his argument was we tried to play him on a line with countryman German Leon Draisaitl. He hasn't scored any goals. We tried to put him on McDavid's line. He still hadn't scored any goals. If he'd scored 10, 15, maybe 20 goals, we would have made the playoffs. Now, just bearing in mind, the Edmonton Oilers, they sit 7 points out of a playoff spot at the moment with only 7 games left to play.
Also,
They are 6th place in the wildcard race out of 9 in the Western Conference. And they're saying that a fringe NHL guy, a bottom 6 player... just because he didn't score 20 goals with Draisaitl or McDavid has cost the Edmonton Oilers the playoffs. Nobody else, not their atrocious goaltending, not their terrible defense, not their injury problems, not their challenged general manager before he was fired. Tobias Reeder. It was all his fault.
But they got a free agent from the Arizona Coyotes. What were they expecting?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. To be fair, Liam Kirk is part of that organisation, so be careful.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, the Arizona Coyotes last year were not the greatest side.
I mean, have they been the greatest side any year?
You know, so you got a free agent from Arizona, and what, you were expecting him to just, you know, win every single individual trophy going, and
yeah, apparently so.
Right, okay.
Apparently so.
No wonder they're outside the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Arizona are higher up in the standings than they are.
That's
the
true.
Arizona Coyotes are only 2 points out of a playoff spot.
And that's without the magnificent Liam Kirk.
Absolutely, even though he's not playing for the team. It's absolutely due to him. Yeah, so that was very interesting. I mean, it wasn't really a topic we were going to talk about, but apparently Tobias Reeder is the reason that the Edmonton Oilers are out of the playoffs. It's not the fact that they have to rely on 2 players to generate their entire offense. I mean, this was the problem with the team last year. Like, I even sent a tweet about this last year. It was either earlier in the season or last year, something about this. Like, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are the only 2 players that can put up points consistently for the Edmonton Oilers organisation. And then last year, the team was like, yeah, this is great. We just need to get some more depth scoring. And then they got Alex Chiasson, to be fair. He scored like 20 goals this year, or he's on pace to score 20 goals. To be fair, he's been playing with McDavid all year. Now, that you would think that automatically assures you like 10, 15 goals on the year. But as we've seen with Tobias Reeder, clearly it doesn't. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. The Edmonton Oilers, like, they need a massive shake-up in that organisation. I genuinely feel sorry for Oilers fans. Like, you shouldn't pity a fan base, but I pity the Edmonton Oilers. And the reason I pity them, how many first overall picks have they had this last decade?
Oh, I know. They seem to have the first overall picks pretty much every year since I've started following the NHL properly.
I think it was like 4 times in 5 years. They got Taylor Hall, they got Yakupov, they got Nugent Hopkins, they got McDavid, and I think that's it. I think that's the 4 of them. Like, and then Taylor Hall leaves the organisation. He wins the Hart Trophy as league fucking MVP. Jordan Eberle, a long-time player for the team, leaves the team. He's like tearing it up with the Islanders this year. Yakupov leaves the team. To be honest, the only one that should have left the team out of that lot is Yakupov, because he sucked. Like, he didn't want to play defense, clearly. He's playing for SK St. Petersburg, and he's doing alright for them so far, but, like, you can tell by him in the NHL, like, I think he went a point every other game in 350 games or something, which for a first overall pick is just awful. Like, you look at, in comparison, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, like, those kids are tearing it up. And I know different drafts, different quality of players, but bloody hell. Edmonton Oilers, sort your shit out. But anyway, in terms of the teams that have clinched a playoff berth, as I mentioned earlier, Tampa Bay, Boston, those two teams have both clinched berths. The Winnipeg Jets have also clinched a berth. The San Jose Sharks have clinched a berth. Of course, we've still got games to play. The Rangers play the Penguins tonight, and it starts at 11 o'clock, so I might tune in for a little bit of that tonight. So there's still plenty of teams looking to clinch their berths. So the top two spots in the Atlantic Division have been finalised. Tampa and Boston, then they're playing for third place in the Atlantic at the moment. Although Toronto do look like they're going to get it. They've got enough points. Winnipeg have made it. Calgary, San Jose have made it. So the Western Conference, the top two spots are still available. And in the Pacific Division, only the the number 3 spot is available. So still a lot to play for those teams up the top there. Still some interesting stuff to happen there.
Thing is, there's a huge gap to the wild card.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The Western Conference has really slacked off this year. Usually, we found, over the last few years since I've been watching, we've usually found that the Western Conference have been dominant in the regular season, but then over the last few years, come playoffs, they've shrunk. But like earlier when I was watching hockey, like 2010 to 2015, the Western Conference dominated the playoffs there.
Oh yeah,
so,
was it Kings and Blackhawks and?
Yeah, Kings, Blackhawks. I mean, it was the Bruins then. So it was Blackhawks, Bruins, Kings, Blackhawks. I mean, only one of those teams is an Eastern Conference team out of 5 championships. So the Western Conference was dominating it, but the last few years it's been Penguins, Caps. So the Eastern Conference have kind of taken it back. And in the regular season, the Western Conference have really struggled this year. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention, guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a sad day because yesterday it was announced that the New York Rangers failed to make the playoffs. I know. It's a tough blow for us all. The second straight season it's happened. Unfortunately, they don't make the playoffs so they can have a first round exit. Instead, what they've decided to do is hoard a load of draft picks in order to bring a lot of young talent into the organisation that they've been lacking the last half a decade due to trying to make lots of long playoff runs. They've got made lots of trades to gain lots of young, high potential players that they hope will one day make the team. They've got lots of restricted free agents and plenty of cap space to go after big free agent names like Artemi Panarin. It's just a sad day, really, for the Rangers. It's not as if they've got a plan in place or anything, and it's looking really good. I mean, we've got guys like Vitaly Kravtsov, who played for Tractor Chelyabinsk this year, led all players younger than 20 years old in goals, assists, and points. They've got Keandre Miller, who's been tearing it up in the NCAA. Got Niels Lundqvist, who was a late pick in the first round. He played very well in the Swedish Hockey League. Things are looking good for the Rangers. Lots of fans are expecting us to be a playoff team now. And I don't quite understand that. It's a fucking rebuild, guys.
You know what you need to do, don't you?
What?
You need to come over to the good side in blue and white.
What, the team that hasn't been to a Stanley Cup Finals in 50 years?
Come north of the border,
the
old
good
man.
side. I have actually been to Scotiabank Arena. It's very nice. They have a very nice store. I went there over last summer. It's very nice. During my trip to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I really want to go back there. It was a bloody lovely place, that was. But anyway, moving on. The KHL. You guys don't care, but I'm still here. The conference finals are beginning in a couple of days. March 28th and March 29th are when the respective conference finals begin. Now, there's only one team that I didn't expect to be there. So the Western Conference, for the second straight year, we have CSKA Moscow against SK St. Petersburg.
Surprise.
Yeah, exactly. The two best teams in the regular season.
If they were in opposite conferences, that would be the final, like, every year.
Maybe. I'm not so sure about We'll get into that in a moment. So CSKA Moscow, they won the series last year. I believe it was only a 5 or 6 game series. SK St. Petersburg, they've of course won the Gagarin Cup several times in the last half a decade, whereas CSKA Moscow, they either haven't in a while or they've never won it. I'm not too keyed up on KHL playoff history, to be fair. But yeah, so that's going to be a fantastic series to watch. I really hope Free Sports show a couple of those games, because I will watch the shit out of them. And then on the Eastern Conference, we have Avangard Omsk versus Salavat Yuleev, which is interesting. The number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, Avtomobilist, was taken out in 5 games.
That's
Salavat Yuleev, yeah.
A surprise.
To be fair, Salavat Yuleev, they are a very good playoff team. They've won the Gagarin Cup several times, as you might know from my 5 players who have won the Stanley Cup and Gagarin Cup video. Like, interestingly, every single second round series took 5 games. Maybe the KHL is rigged.
Oh, let's make another video.
Yeah. So we've got the number 1 and 2 seed of the Western Conference and the number 4 and number 6 seed of the Eastern Conference. So the Eastern Conference has been an absolute roller coaster this year, by the looks of it.
That's good. That's what I like about the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. But the Western Conference has been what you'd expect.
Yeah.
To an extent. I mean, the only thing I wouldn't expect is Spartak Moscow going 2 games up on SK St. Petersburg in the first round, but they made it through, so it's fine. So, in terms of who I think's going to go through, I wouldn't be surprised if CSKA Moscow went through to the finals, purely for the fact that they dominated them last year in the playoffs, and CSKA Moscow had St. Petersburg's number a fair few times in the regular season. I think St. Petersburg got 1 or 2 wins on them, but CSKA Moscow were dominating that. And in the Eastern Conference, I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised if either team went through, to be honest.
Well, no, I mean, it's the 4th seed against the 6th seed, so no one really, I don't think anyone really expected them to be there.
Absolutely, that's a really tough one to predict.
Yeah.
Because you could go on sort of, Avangard Omsk had a really good first half of the season. So either them or Avtomobilist that had the huge winning streak. I can't quite remember which one it was, and that's really bad of me. But Avangard Omsk had a really good season. They had a fantastic season. Salavat Yuleev, they've got the playoff history,
Omsk, if you were going to look for anything to split them, Omsk have played 2 less games in the playoffs.
True, yeah.
So potentially might be slightly less tired.
Yeah.
And that's literally the only thing I can find for any kind of...
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, their conference final begins in 4 days. They would have had almost a week break. So both teams are going to be either well rested or a little bit sluggish because it's been a while.
You could be a bit leggy in the first game, and then you've run the back foot. So
absolutely. So I'm going to keep tabs on it. You guys might not because you don't care, and that's fine. But I am, which is great. So yeah, that's the KHL as it stands at the moment. Only 3 days till the Western Conference Finals, and I can't wait. Now, we've got Brits Abroad. Before we go to Brits Abroad, I'm just going to sum up Fantasy really quick.
Okay.
Because I just want to move past it. So
what, you mean because you lost by nearly 100 points?
Yeah, so it turns out that half my roster got injured last week. I'm not even joking. I saw several
I did look at yours. I just saw that I had a stupid amount of hat tricks and we ended up 70 odd points clear after 3 days.
Yeah, so basically I'm playing for the 3rd or 4th place in the league at this point. I'm not going to show you because
millionaires.
I can't be asked. So basically,
just notice how because he's losing, he won't show you.
No, not at all. It's purely for the fact that I would need to change a load of settings in OBS again, and I can't be asked.
Oh yeah, right.
Chris is probably going to win. He's probably going to take 1st place. Let's be honest. I mean, he's cheated the whole season. Why stop now?
Bugger off.
I'm looking to
I want a banner raising in a few weeks' time. I want a banner raising. I want a trophy presentation.
Sports team, come on, man! I don't want to get him a banner. No. Just hang it up on the where that little patch on the screen of our podcast is between the skate and you. Just Fantasy League champion.
I want you to
18/19.
animate it so it raises from the bottom up to the top.
And we'll do a specific podcast just to host the banner raising ceremony. Oh, God. Please, Denver sports team. Please beat him. So, yeah, that's what happened with the fantasy sports. And then we move on to Kirk's Corner. See, I'm changing things up a little bit today. Woo.
Yeah.
Go for it. Liam Kirk.
It's all gone shit.
I mean, you're not wrong, but yeah, it was fair.
Basically. Okay, so Kirk, obviously he finished the season before last weekend.
Yeah, third on the team in scoring, right?
Yeah, his regular season, 63 games played, 26 goals, 21 assists for 47 points, sixth on the team in terms of points, and third on the team in terms of goals. The problem is the playoffs. They've had 2 playoff games so far. They've lost 7-0 and 8-2.
Yeah.
And Kirky's at -5.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, it's kind of all gone to shit.
Yeah, because I was trying to get to sleep last night when they were playing the Oshawa Generals in Game 2.
And it just kept coming through.
Flash scores was just like... I was like, oh, I guess they're losing.
Have you heard of a thing called silent mode?
Yeah. Have you heard of a thing called not being bothered to use it? As you can tell, I'm quite a lazy human being. I mean...
Well, some of us have to be up in the morning for work, because some of us get to work from home all the time.
Some of us have 10k subscribers, Chris Gadsby.
I just said you could work from home all the time. I could have said sitting in your arse and sleeping in all the time, but I didn't.
Hey, I'll have you know that I actually did something very useful today, and I pre-ordered my copy of Tropico 6. I'll have you know.
Oh, that looks so good.
Oh, it's a great game.
That looks so good. Anyway, you said you spent half an hour trying to get your dog out of a bush.
I did. But before that, I played Tropico 6. So yeah, I've had a very eventful day. But anyway, we've now pretty much reached the end of the podcast. We've now got to audience questions. So we've got about 5-10 minutes if you guys want to ask me any questions.
We did have topics.
What?
We did have one. And what's your take on this year's Vesna?
Yeah, okay. So I think Vasilevsky's going to take it without a doubt. Do I think he's a worthy candidate, don't get me wrong. Do I think he should win it? I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because the whole team has been absolutely fucking stacked from the beginning of the season. Like, he's definitely played his role and he's played it really well, but do I think he's like the MVP goaltender of the season? I don't know. Like, he's done his job, but then again, so have their stacked defensive core and so have their stacked forward core. You know, did you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah,
I mean, he's got, 2.33 goals against average, .928 save percentage, and 6 shutouts, 36 wins on the season.
Which is incredible.
So he's the current leader for it. It's Ben Bishop who's in second.
Ben Bishop had a really solid shutout streak. Do you know what?
Well, Ben Bishop also has 6 shutouts, which is good for me, obviously. But his goals against average is down to 2.05, you see. So.
You know, fucking Ben Bishop, he's got the Dallas Stars record in shutout streak now.
I know.
Yeah, and that happened while you were playing me in the playoffs. Like, how does that work?
No.
Every single fucking player getting a hat trick.
Who got 15 points in one night.
Ugh, it's a piss take. Anyway.
Thank you, auto draft.
Bollocks. You know who I'd really like to win the Vezina Trophy? Robin Lehner of the New York Islanders. Just the story that, because of course I made a video on him earlier in the year. He's been one of the best goaltenders in the entire league this entire season. And considering the stuff that he's gone through in order to get to that point, like, I'd like both Islanders goaltenders, because they've both been standout. Like, I'd like to see Robin Lehner win the Vezina. I don't think he will win it. I think he should earn some votes for it, absolutely. Because, I mean, the New York Islanders, everybody, since they lost Tavares, we're expecting them to be a bottom-feeding team. And they're at the top of the Metro Division with Washington. Like, that's a testament to Barry Trotz. That's a testament to the forwards and the defense on the roster. And that's a testament to the fantastic goaltending that Robin Lehner and Thomas Greiss have done. Like, I absolutely think that Robin Lehner, is worthy of that award. He might get the Bill Masterton Trophy for sort of perseverance to the sport and everything. That would be a good one for him to get. But yeah, no, Robin Lehner's story was really quite touching. And I think the fact that he has done so well and he's proven a lot of people wrong this year, like, fair play to him. Like, he has my respect. So yeah. That's
what's your take on changing goaltender equipment sizes to increase scoring?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it because we're seeing more goals. But at the same time, goaltenders are getting 6 shutouts a season, you know? Like, it's a combination. Like, some people are like, oh, they're padded too much and we should drop it down because essentially they have too much protection and too much they can work with. Some other people are like, no, well, the goaltender has essentially the hardest job of anybody on the ice. They should probably take as much protection as they can get. I think it's worked out. I think if they'd changed it and the goal scoring didn't go up, then it would have been a problem. Then I would have been like, there's no point, change it back. But the fact that we have seen a pretty solid increase in scoring, yeah, I think it's good. More goals.
Yeah, I mean,
if you in a sport like hockey, I think it's like most sports. People want to see goals.
Yeah, as long as, in my view, as long as the netminders still have adequate protection.
Yeah, as long as it isn't
smaller pads is
compromising their health or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, with regards to the channel this week, keep bringing your questions in, guys. We've got a few more minutes.
He's going to start a new series of Tropico 6.
Oh, I wish.
He just builds hockey arenas everywhere. And
the thing is, it's on a tropical island, so I don't think it's going to happen. But
that's fine. We can get a Zamboni across there.
Hockey rink DLC. I would buy it. But what I will say is, the game, because I pre-purchased it, it gives you access to their beta, and I was playing it earlier. It's really, really good. They've made a lot of changes to it, which
because they've got the Canadian Empire in Civ 6 with the specialist building as a hockey rink.
Yes. Yeah, because I've got like 57 hours on Tropico 5. Like, I play that game a lot. I like that game. I've bought all of the Tropicos since 3. I think I got Tropico 3 on Xbox 360 back in those days, and then I've bought all of them since. I've got 4. I think I got 4 on the Xbox One, or I either got it on Steam. I think I got 4, 5, 6 on Steam now. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. Tropico 6 is great. If you haven't played it and you love Tropico, get it. It's very good. If you have no money to get it, then wait till it goes on a Steam sale, which will be in like 2 minutes. I love the soundtrack of Tropico. Yes, Ben, you are absolutely right. The soundtrack for Tropico games is just perfect. Like, I wouldn't listen to that type of music anywhere else, but the music in that game just fits so perfectly. I love it. Yes. Anyway, enough about being a dictator on a Caribbean island. Yeah, so the channel hit 10,000 subscribers over the last night and into the early hours of this morning. I woke up and I had like 10,030 subscribers or something.
Of which, like, whatever happened to attributes for about 8,000 of those.
Absolutely, and this NHL Slapshot series that I'm doing
yes,
attributed to the last couple of thousand. So, I mean, whether you're new to the channel or not, I mean, I'm going to put up something on the community tab after this podcast just to say a proper thank you to everybody. But yeah, whether you've been watching since I started the channel or whether you've been watching for the last 5 minutes, like, thanks. Like, I'm just some fat British guy that sits on his arse making videos about hockey and occasionally cracking some really shit jokes. And the fact that you guys seem to like that enough to want to watch more is really, really... I really appreciate it. Like, it's really cool. I know, like, 10,000 subscribers in the grand scheme of things is nothing, considering PewDiePie's got, like, 90 million subs and T-Series have got, like, 90 million bots subscribing to their channel. But you know, I just think, like, I started this channel almost 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think I was sub like 920, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it fucking shows you like how far it's come, you know. And I mean, I only like you only subbed to the channel like last year, didn't you?
It was about 18 months ago now.
Yeah, 18 months ago, I was at less than a tenth of what I've got already, or what I've got now. Like that. Like when you put it into perspective, I am somebody from a country where hockey isn't that big. I'm competing with. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say that goes in with a question from your. It says, "How well is hockey known in the UK?"
Not very.
For those in the know, quite well.
Oh yeah, like us.
In mainstream media, it's appalling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
if it's not football, then it's.
And because of course I'm also competing with all the Canadian hockey YouTubers, which
so there is that. Just to give you an idea, Yoma, when the Winter Olympics were on, our broadcaster said that the cameramen were on the ice with the players weaving in and out of them.
When it was a referee, of course. And now I every once in a while think back to that, and it makes me fucking die every single time. I love it. So yeah, I just want to say a really big thank you to all of you. I'm so surprised that the NHL Slapshot series is doing so well. I made that first episode to be like, oh, fuck, I don't have enough time this week to make a Whatever Happened To. Let's just edit this all together. Because I'd recorded a couple of other, like, video game videos. Because I used to do a lot of video game-related stuff, like other video games, not just hockey games. And I was like, oh, I really miss making these videos. So, like, I recorded an episode in, like, Tetris 99 or whatever. Which is a great game, I'll have you know. Very addictive. It's a battle royale for Tetris. It's great. You wouldn't think it works, but it does. Yeah, I just like, I edited all that together. I never released it on anywhere because I didn't really have the right place to do it. But I took a lot of the same editing style from that, and it's very similar to some of the other channels that I watch. Took that and put that into this first Whatever Happened To video, and like, I mean, it continues to get like a couple thousand views every day. Like we're talking like 34,000 views it currently sits at. I'm like, I'm shocked the fact that it's got that many. Which, I mean, I've got a video that's got like 150k on this channel. Like I'm not. It isn't the first
video.
Silver
medal scandal still your best one?
No, Whatever Happened To Tim Thomas's by about 15k, I think. Yeah, like I'm not. It isn't the first video that I've had that's blown up, but yeah, like. It's blown up so quickly as well. And, like, people keep asking me to make more. I'm going to upload, like, one every week until you guys don't want to see it anymore or, like, nobody watches it. So, yeah, I'll probably do it every Friday. I was thinking Slapshot Saturdays, but now I'm thinking Friday. It's a nice time. Look, end of the week. People just want to chill out. Why not? So, yeah, I'm going to put up a post on my community tab saying a big thank you to everyone. But, yeah, that's the end of the podcast. We've been going for about an hour and a half. One last question. Will you ever watch an EIHL game for this new National League? If one of the teams wants to invite me, that'd be great. I mean, I don't see why not. Might go see a Milton Keynes Lightning game and just laugh at the owners' faces. Anyway, that's the end of the podcast. We will be back next week for the final standings of the Elite League from the regular season. I think we'll look back at our regular season predictions if we can. And
I've still got them up here.
We'll do some more informed playoff predictions, maybe, based on based on who actually made the playoffs and where they made it and the matchups that are taking place.
I have to say, they're pretty bad.
Yeah, I think more so from your end than mine, hopefully.
They're both pretty bad.
Okay, fair enough.
Mine is potentially... Well, mine is a little bit worse, but they're both pretty awful.
Brilliant. That's what I love to hear. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll have some videos up this week. Don't really know when. Just keep an eye out. Bye.